So welcome back to the session on phylum Ctenophora. In this video, we'll be discussing on the type species Pleurobrachia. Pleurobrachia, it is commonly referred as sea gooseberry or sea walnut. You can see the figure over here. The shape of the organism almost resembles that of a walnut, and hence it is referred as a sea walnut. Now, regarding the sea gooseberry, now we can see that here this is where the anal pores, two anal pores are there, one on this side and one on this side opens out, and this is hence referred as the aboral pole. Okay, it is broad aboral pole over here, and it narrows down on this side where you can find in the center it is a mouth. Okay, this is the oral pole, and in the center of the oral pole you can find the mouth. So running between this oral and aboral axis, you can see 8 equally spaced meridional rows of ciliary bands. So these are the ciliary bands. Okay, and the cilia, it is arranged in transverse, what you call plate-like pattern. Okay, so these are the ciliary bands, and there are 8 such transverse, meridional rows of ciliary bands that run from the oral to the aboral axis, and hence it resembles that of a gooseberry. That's why it is referred as a sea gooseberry. Okay, just like any other ctenophorans, they are found inhabiting oceans. They are marine, planktonic in nature. Pleurobrachia specifically, they are found to inhabit surface waters of the sea. We can see that ctenophorans, they are found in every part of the sea, from the surface waters to the deeper oceans, to the seashores to the deeper waters. So here, the Pleurobrachia, it is specifically found to inhabit the surface waters. Regarding the morphology, if you see, we have already seen that the broad aboral pole, and there is like a narrower the oral pole, and in the center of the oral pole you can find the mouth opening, while on the aboral side it is unique to have 2 anal pores with an apical organ, a aboral sensory receptor at the center. Okay, so the 2 anal pores over here, and the aboral sensory receptor, which functions similar to that of a statocyst, which is found in the aboral side. Okay, running between the oral and the aboral surface, you can see 8 meridional rows of ciliary bands, and these ciliary bands, they are referred as comb ribs, comb rows, or costae. And each of these ciliary band, it consists of a series of transverse ciliary plates. These are the ciliary plates. Each ciliary plate, if you look into it, resembles in this way. It looks like this. This is an actual photograph of a single transverse ciliary plate. These ciliary plates are referred as comb plates or teens or combs. That is why the name has come, the Ctenophora. Okay, so each plate, you can see, it is formed of fused longer cilia. So each plate, it is actually a transverse ridge which is formed by the fusion of exceptionally very long cilia, and these cilia, they are fused basally over here. You can see that is why it gives it a plate-like formation, while distally they are separated. Okay, distally these cilia, they are separated, and it resembles that of a teeth of a comb. Okay, teeth, that is how the name has come, teen, C-T-E-N-E. Okay, so a teeth of a comb, and these comb plates, they keep on beating the cilia on these transverse plates or the teens. They keep on beating and brings about the locomotion or the swimming movement of the Pleurobrachia or any other ctenophorans. Okay, towards the aboral surface, you can see on either side, if you look into the figure, on either side, okay, you can see here, okay, this is actually the tentacular sheath, right? You can see here, this is a tentacular sheath, and from the base of the tentacular sheath, you can see a tentacle emerging out. So there is a pair of tentacular sheath on placed one on either side, and from each of the tentacular sheath arises a very long extensile tentacle. Okay, you can see here a very long extensile tentacle emerge out from the tentacular sheath. Okay, by the muscular activity of these tentacles, they can be fully extended out of the pouches, you can see, otherwise it can be even retracted inside. Okay, you can see here it is folded inside, or else it can be completely extensile. And once when it is completely extensile, when it is completely stretched out, the tentacle may go for maybe like 50 to 100 times the size of a organism. Okay, it may be so long. Fine. Now, on the tentacle, you can see smaller branches coming out, and these branches are referred to as the tentillae. Okay, each of the tentacle bear a row of branches, and these branches are what is referred as a tentillae. The tentillae, as well as the tentacles, they are provided with epidermal cells which are adhesive in nature, and these epidermal cells are what are referred as colocytes or lasso cells. Okay, these are what you call with the help of these colocytes, and the tentacles help in food capturing and ingestion. Okay, now we can see how the colocyte is made up of. So as already mentioned, each tentacle, they have a row of lateral branches. These are the branches which are referred as tentillae or the pinnae, and these tentillae as well as tentacles are provided with the adhesive epidermal cells which are referred as colocytes or the lasso cells. Now, looking into the structure of colocytes, the colocyte, it can be differentiated from the normal epidermal interstitial cells in the specific what you call the structural pattern they form. Okay, each colocyte, if you see, it is having a hemispherical apical head. Okay, a hemispherical apical head, or it is otherwise known as apical cap, and the outer margin of this cap, it is produced into minute adhesive papillae. Okay, and on the surface of the head, we can see there are numerous secretory granules, and these secretory granules are responsible for the secretion of adhesive substance which actually is used for capturing the prey. These adhesive substance, they entangle and kill smaller organisms, their prey. Okay, now coming to the rest of the parts of the colocyte, given out from the base of the cell. So this is the apical head, and from the base of the colocyte, you can see a very stiff axial filament running along the center. You can see this is a straight filament, and this is the axial filament, or otherwise referred as the nuclear filament of the stalk. And this axial filament, it represents the highly modified nucleus of the colocyte of a single. This is a single colocyte. Okay, so this represents a very highly what you call extensible, highly modified nucleus of the cell, and this structure, it helps in like anchoring the colocyte into the epidermis and the mesoglea. Now, surrounding this axial nuclear filament or the axial filament, you can see a spirally coiled spring-like spiral filament on the side. Okay, so once this colocyte is used for capturing or entangling the prey, what happens is the colocyte gets damaged. Okay, and it cannot be further used. Now, once it is damaged, the damaged colocyte, it is removed and it is replaced by a completely new one, which is produced or differentiated from the interstitial cell. Okay, so this is about the tentacle and the colocyte. Coming to another unique feature, it is a gastrovascular canals, which helps in the ingestion and digestion of the food. Here you can see this is the mouth region, and it ends. This is the oral surface, and this is the aboral surface. So here you can see the oral mouth opening, which extends into a mouth leads into a laterally compressed stomodium or pharynx. Over here you can see. Okay, the inner wall of the stomodium, it is highly folded, and this stomodium or the pharynx, it further run upwards towards the aboral pole, and over here you can see a very short what do you call as a esophageal region. It is very short, narrow tube, and this esophagus, it opens into here the stomach region. The stomach is also highly flattened, and you can see the pharynx is also flattened, but the stomach, the flattening of the stomach is almost 90 degrees to the flattening of the pharyngeal region. Okay, the stomach is otherwise referred as infundibulum. You can see over here infundibulum, or otherwise it is also referred as frenul. Now, leading out from the stomach, you can see here there are three main canals, okay, leading out from the stomach. There are three main canals: a median aboral canal, this is the one median aboral canal, and a pair of transverse canals. Okay, so there are three canals. There is one median aboral canal, otherwise it is referred as infundibular canal, and two transverse canals, or it is otherwise known as perradial canals. Okay, you can see over here perradial canals. Okay, so these are the two transverse canals, and this is the median aboral canal. Fine. Now, when you look into the aboral canal, okay, so we will look into the median aboral canal. The median aboral canal, it actually it is otherwise referred as we have already mentioned, it is otherwise referred as the infundibular canal, isn't it? It terminally divides into four branches. You can see here four branches, and these four branches are referred as the anal canals. Okay, so this single median aboral canal, it branches into four canals, smaller ones, towards the end, okay, towards the aboral surface, and these are referred as the anal canals. And these anal canals, they are seen around the aboral sense organ, the sensory receptor. Okay, aboral sensory receptor. And each canal, the anal canal, has a dilation which is referred as the ampulla, and two diagonally opposite anal canals open out by two minute anal pores, while the other two, it ends blindly. I hope it is clear. Okay, so four anal canals are there. Out of that, two, it opens out through anal pores, one pore on either side of the sensory receptor, while the other two anal canals, they end up blindly. Okay, now regarding the transverse canals over this side, the transverse canals, they run horizontally for a very short distance, and then it from the basal portion of each of the transverse canal, you can see two blindly ending canals, which are referred as this one. You can see here, right? So this is the what you call transverse canal. Arising from that, you can see the pharyngeal canal or the stomodeal canal, and another blindly ending canal is the tentacular canal. Okay, very close to the tentacular sheath. Okay, so here you can see these two are the blindly ending canals emerging out from the transverse canal. Fine. Now, terminally, the what do you call the transverse canal, it divides into interradial canals. You can see here two interradial canals arise from each of the transverse canal. These interradial canal, it divides into this is the interradial canal. Okay, these are the interradial canals, and each of the interradial canal, it further divides into adradial canal. Okay, two adradial canals emerge out from a single interradial canal, and each of these adradial canal, it ends up in a meridional canal. This is a meridional canal. Okay, so I hope it is clear. So we have the transverse canal dividing into two interradial canal, each of the interradial canal further dividing into two adradial canal, and each of the adradial canal, it ends in a meridional canal. Okay, so this is what is referred as a gastrovascular canals. The meridional canal, it lies just beneath the corresponding combro. Combro, I hope you remember, this is the here this is the combro, isn't it? The plates or combros. So we can see that meridional canal, it lies just beneath the corresponding combro. Okay, now the lining of each of these gastrovascular canals, it contains ciliated cells, and also we can find the secretory gland cells are also present, especially in the pharyngeal canals. And the significant feature of this gastrovascular canal system of pleurobrachia, it is the bilaterally symmetrical position of the canals and the presence of two anal pores. So with all these structures, it almost gives a bilaterally symmetrical structure. Okay, so the pleurobrachia, it is a microphagous carnivore and mainly feeds upon small pelagic animals. Now, regarding the reproduction. Reproduction, it is sexual in the case of Pleurobrachia, and we can see that Pleurobrachia, and just like in many other ctenophores, they are hermaphrodites. The gonads, they are endodermal in origin, and they develop in the inner wall of the meridional glands. Okay, so you can see that they develop free swimming larva, which is referred as a sedipit larva. Here you can see the figure. Okay, fine.